Hello, this is Idodmg and welcome back to the channel. In this last Epoch video, I want to talk to you about my experience with the Void Knight in SSF Hardcore. Now, if you don't know what that means, SSF typically stands for Solo Self-Founded. However, over in last Epoch, they have two different variants of this. When you fire up your character, you can select different challenges. One of them, you can do Solo Character Found. So literally all the gear you find is only for that character. You can't share it with any other characters on your account. And then the other option you can do is Solo Account Found, which I think says it in the name, but all the items in there are purely just found on your account, so no trading or any of that sort of thing. And then the hardcore portion means basically when you die, that character is dead. But over in last Epoch, it's a little bit more forgiving. When you do die in hardcore, your character just loses the hardcore tag and becomes a softcore character, but it will stay within the challenge parameters that we talked about, whether it be Solo Character Found or Solo Account Found. And again, you don't have to do any of these challenges. It was just something I imposed on myself because I wanted to try it out. Let's go ahead and talk about last Epoch, Void Knight, Solo Character Found, Hardcore. With over 1,000 hours played in the last Epoch, I really do enjoy playing hardcore characters, especially when I am streaming, just because that's my time away and I don't have any other distractions and I can solely focus on the game at hand. However, during the day, this is with all the kids usually not the case. So usually I'll play softcore during the day. And when I'm feeling up to it, I'll play hardcore for the stream. Hopefully one day we can stream so much more that we can actually just really do hardcore almost exclusively. But for now, this is what we got to work with. Season 2, Tombs of the Erased, released on April 17th. And that was the very first night that we started up our hardcore character. I spun the Wheel of Fate to let the wheel decide what class we'll be playing. I was really hoping it would not land on Sentinel just because I feel like that's what everyone else will be playing, but it just happened to. In fact, I even spun the wheel live, so there's no gimmicks or anything about it. It is what it is, and we got Sentinel, and that's what we chose to play. And then on top of that, I told myself I'm not going to play Void Knight because that's what everyone else is going to play. But as I was playing and progressing, I decided I would lean into the hammer throw ability, which I feel like you can take so many different ways. You could throw smite on there and do kind of a paladin holy type of build, but I really just felt like everything I was finding in the game and everything I was seeing in the game really was trying to tell me to go into the void and become a Void Knight. It's just the way I felt pushed, especially playing Solo Character Found. You kind of have to play off what the game gives you. We did make it to level 46. I think it was Act 7 in the snow area, so we did not even get to complete the campaign. However, I feel like now that I've kind of been blasting about the past week or so, I feel like our next go around on hardcore will be a little bit more successful. But basically starting out, I decided I wanted to go hammer throw. And the reason for that is I've always been really stubborn because usually when I know something's overpowered, especially in an ARPG, I tend to stray away from it and try to find something else that's a little more niche, a little bit more unique and fun, really. But I decided this time around I have aged, I've grown up. We've been playing last Epoch for 5 years now. Surely I've grown up a little bit. So finally I decided to go ahead and try out hammer throw after 5 years. And it is still really powerful, but that's okay. It's still really fun to blast with. The interesting part with learning how to use hammer throw effectively is it has the throwing skill tag on there. It's a throwing attack. And when you're finding weapons, it's either going to have melee damage or spell damage on there. And so it was really a learning curve for me to figure out how do I actually scale by throwing damage. Now, the way it's going to work in last Epoch is when you're looking at an item, obviously melee is not going to help you out very much. Spell's not going to help you out very much when we're talking about for the hammer throw ability. Because if you look at the ability, you can see its skill tags on there. But what you do want to be looking for on your weapon stats is pretty much what I'm talking about here is your physical damage. And then once we go into void damage, crit multiplier, things like that. So you're not really looking at just the melee and spell. Look for the other important stats. And the other thing too that kind of tripped me up a little bit was I was just kind of skimming through and I saw that there was health on melee hit. And the melee part didn't really register in my head right away. But make sure you're actually reading these things because health on melee hit, again, melee will not help the hammer throw ability. However, health on kill would help out this setup. But let's keep going here. So we're going to jump over here into Last Epoch Tools. I went ahead and jumped over here into Last Epoch Tools. And if you haven't checked this tool out, it really is a great site just to kind of mess around with different builds and kind of just theory craft, really. It's really a great tool. But the hammer throw ability is the one we're going to talk about here. And when I was very first looking at this, I screwed up. And I really hope you don't make this same mistake that I did. I believe I talked about this in the video where I was talking about my first impressions and how my time is with the season so far. And if you haven't checked that video out, make sure you do so after this video. But the mistake I made here was I usually when I look at a skill, I'm like, how can we just get the most damage out of this thing? And right out of the gate, right here, Force of Impact has more damage on there. Well, and Stun Chance as well. And I thought, I'm playing hardcore, Stun Chance would be great, right? So you go down here and you see, okay, you get more hit damage versus stun, and also stun duration. We're going to be getting even more damage here out of our hammers. Now, this is not necessarily the case, and I'm not saying these two nodes to just avoid. Like, definitely they're worth considering, but I think early on, especially really early game, you're better off going up here for a chance for the hammer to deal double damage. Now, the downside of this is the hammer, when you throw it, will not return to you, so you're not getting that hit on the way back, but the double damage is actually really insane. On top of that, you can spec it over here to make the hammers spiral with an increased mana cost, and more importantly, you can make them orbit you. This one's just absolutely huge, and because when you spec into this even more, basically what's going to happen is hammer's going to be more of like an aura, because you're going to have so many hammers echoing, because you can get that from the Void Knight passive tree, that there's going to be so many hammers, it's going to look like just a giant aura of hammers following you. And you'll pick up the additional projectiles over here from Catapult. But don't forget about this node down here. You can actually make it so that chance to deal double damage is a 100% chance. You can guarantee it's always doing double damage. In order to do that, though, you would have to spec a full 5 points into Zealot's Conviction and that Steadfast Path as well. But then you're going to be guaranteeing that you do 100% more damage. There's other ways you can take this ability as well. You can make them shoot out into a Nova. You can increase the damage and reduce the cost. But it's all kind of a balancing act here of, do you need that assistance with your mana cost reduction? If so, I would take a few points out of here, and then I was putting them over into Ballista. But the big part of the build, once we decided we were going to commit to the Void life, we went down here to Rapid Throw, and then got our points we needed to be able to unlock this Disintegrating Aura. Now what this is each hammer is going to have its own aura around it that will deal void damage over time. And this is going to scale off throwing attack damage, damage over time, void damage, and you can even take it a step further here. And of course you'd want to, if you're going into the aura, to get even more aura damage. And icing on the cake here is mana cost reduction. So I went ahead and just kind of made a skill tree here, kind of sampled it out for what I would do if I were to redo a hardcore void hammer build. And now keep in mind, I know I mentioned it, but I just want to touch on it one more time, that if you are having mana issues, maybe you're not finding enough mana regen on your gear or cost reduction, whatever it is, you can make these things cost a little bit less mana, because if you're out of mana, you can't cast hammers. It's kind of not that good. So if that's the case, I would take a few points out of Zealot's Conviction and put them over here into the mana cost reduction, just until you get that mana regen and the mana issue kind of resolved, and then you can go back into getting more double damage procs. Speaking of mana regen, one of the main ways that I solve this issue is just simply through my gear. I believe there's rings, I think it's belts, and there's another slot, I believe it's relic, and there may even be another item slot that you can roll mana regeneration on. Remember, if there's any affix shard in the game and you're like, what slot can that roll on? You can just check in game. You can go into here, you click inventory, you click on your crafting materials, you find the shard that you want, and then when you mouse over it, it'll tell you the exact slots that you can use in the whole crafting. That reminds me, I kind of want to make an updated crafting guide because there's so much going on. So keep an eye out for that. There's so much going on here with Last Epoch. Go ahead and jump back into Last Epoch here. And another skill that I recommend using is Shield Throw. Now, in order to gain access to this one, you do have to have 5 points into Forge Guard. Now, we are a Void Knight, but you can still put points into Forge Guard and Paladin, at least the first half of the tree anyway. So Forge Guard, I usually go into Steel Aegis for armor and block, and then that's enough to unlock the Shield Throw ability, which we're going to talk about next. Now this skill is pretty cool because it provides a bunch of utility. Now it's going to have a cooldown on it, so you're basically just going to cast it on cooldown, and so it's not going to be your primary skill or anything like that. But with the way the skill works is you throw your shield, and it'll ricochet around. Now, the more ricochets, the more damage you can do, especially in like when there's a bunch of monsters on the screen, right? But now what about when there is only a single target boss fight or something like that? Well, what you want to do in order to keep those ricochets going is come down here into throwing arm, and this will make it so it can ricochet to you as well. And it's going to give you 4 additional ricochets. Now, once you've grabbed that, I always come over here to grab these armor shreds. Now, to get there, you can go into more damage, or you can go into that mana cost reduction. It's kind of like making the choice over here on Hammer Throw between Zealot's Conviction and Ballista. If you're struggling with mana, you can grab the mana cost reduction, or if you need more damage, you can spec into that. It's just kind of what you need at the moment. So we're going to go ahead and put 1 point into damage, grab these 4 armor shreds. So this is going to guarantee each enemy hit by shield throw will get 1 stack of armor shred. Pretty nice utility. Now, after that, we're going to come down here and pick up Colossus. This is a buff that lasts for 4 seconds, and it can stack up to 20 times. What the buff itself is going to do is it's going to increase your armor, but it's also going to give you physical penetration. Now, remember, here on Hammer Throw, sure, we went into the Void Aura stuff, but it still has base physical damage. We haven't fully converted it into Void. What you can do here is throw those into there. Now, each time that you hit an enemy with shield throw, you're going to get 4 stacks. You're already hitting more than 5 times. You're going to get your max 20 stacks per each time you cast shield throw. You're going to be right at the maximum stacks. After that, I'll come down here and get a little bit more utility out of Vampiric Steel. This is going to give you health leech, but what's really cool about this one is it's going to steal the monster's armor, and it's going to give you the armor. So not only do you have more armor yourself, but you're dealing more damage to the enemies as well. And then the last 3 points, I usually will go into just straight damage, unless, of course, I'm struggling with mana. We could drop 1 more point into there and take a point out of damage. Just kind of depends on the situation. I want to go ahead and touch on the passive tree just very briefly. Now, this isn't intended, again, to be a full deep dive build guide video or anything like that. Hopefully, we'll have something like that. I'm working on it in softcore and kind of min-maxing the whole build for myself, and maybe we'll make a video and share that build in the future. Keep an eye out for that. But for now, let's go ahead and jump back into Last Epoch Tools and just touch on the passive tree. Went ahead and jumped back into Last Epoch Tools, and here's the passive tree over on Void Knight. So I went ahead and have it mapped out here. But yeah, as I said, I wasn't even going to go Void Knight. But when I was reading the masteries, when you get your choices, it kind of shows you some of their perks. This one straight up says throwing attacks in there. Like, that's just a huge call out to me. I'm like, well, I'm doing throwing attacks, so I need this. But it's going to give you a chance for your throwing attacks to echo, which is huge for hammers. Remember the giant hammer aura I was talking about? This is going to help bolster that effect as well. But over on the actual skill tree itself, you can get more void damage. You can get throwing void damage. Again, another, like, throwing, that's what I'm doing. We need that. But what's really cool, and remember, I was doing hardcore, so I also was focusing on straight defensive and trying to stay alive. But you can get increased damage, but you can get that health leech. And even on top of that, it is doubled if you've killed recently, which is going to be like 100% of the time, maybe, unless you're on a boss, like a longer boss fight and there's no ads, something like that. But most of the game, you're going to be getting that double effect. You can also get health leech from void damage. You can even increase the leech rate and how much you actually leech for your health. Now, this is pretty huge, even though we still did end up dying on our hardcore character, but I'll show you that death. It was actually pretty cheesy in my opinion. Before that, though, I did want to mention I tried out Abyssal Echoes, and I really wasn't a huge fan of Abyssal Echoes just because it scales off spell damage. Now, I feel like if I were to go to where I cast Smite when my hammers hit, and then we were to go into the Smite, and then we could go into all these other spells and scale spell damage more, but it just didn't feel like a right fit here. So we're cooking up a build, as I said, but let's go ahead and talk about my unfortunate hardcore death with my Void Knight. So here it is, and before I show you this too, I know I've said it now twice, but I just wanted to point out on that passive tree, there's so much more you can do. Like, there's literally so much. You can get void damage, you can get movement speed, you can get skills to echo more. Like, there's so much you can do on the passive tree, but I'm still deep diving in theory crafting exactly how I want to build my Void Knight. But here you go. This is the untimely death, and you can see over here we got people wanting me to die already. Well, today is your lucky day. Now, look what happens here. It's actually really cheesy. So we come around this corner. And look, this wolf, watch right down here. Right there, you can't even hardly see him. And then he's inside this giant glacier dude, hidden behind the wall. I don't even know what's attacking me. Before I even know what's attacking me, I'm dead. I'm dead. Overkill damage, 92. Now, what happened on this really unfortunate death, and I take full credibility. Sure, it was kind of lame that it was hidden behind the wall and that it was hard to see, and I didn't even know what was going on. In all fairness, I had a chess piece in my stash that I kept saying during the stream, I should go switch out to that other chest plate because it gave me like 100 more health or something like that. And instead, I chose to use a chess piece that gave me more damage. I think if I would have switched those out and actually not been greedy for the damage and had more health, I may have actually survived this. And perhaps we'd still be playing the hardcore character today. But it is what it is, and that's what went down with my hardcore Void Knight on last Epoch. And that's going to wrap it up for this last Epoch video. Hopefully you found this video useful and or entertaining. If so, don't forget that like button and subscribe to the channel if you think I've earned it. Please consider becoming a YouTube channel member today and unlock some fun perks such as behind the scenes, early access to videos when I release a whole big batch, and bloopers that I find while editing. But don't forget, your review alone means the absolute world. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.